And we're going to be live in about now.
Great.
Hold on. Let me check here. Let me put us on the gallery. Let me go shut the volume off from the Facebook itself. Right on. How you doing?
Good. I'm doing
What do you want to
good.
get?
What's that?
Man, I got some sort of audio feedback going on today.
Uh-oh.
Let me just double check my thing and make sure it's not me. AirPods, right on. Nah, actually I don't hear it now. So right on. How you been?
Good. Today I am tired, but that is, that's huge.
Yeah, it's going around. I'm finding that, the more we're like leaning into this parenting thing, the more challenging sleep can be to get sometimes. Yeah.
We've been going to bed at like 8:30 or 9, and last night we stayed up until 10. And
Crazy.
feeling it today. I fell asleep for half an hour with Theo at nap time and drinking some black tea right now, hoping that will not be too strong for an 8:30 bedtime.
Oh man, I've actually been off of caffeine for 3.5 weeks.
That's right. How is that going?
Yeah, it's going really well. I figured we would probably talk about this a little bit today, but my body feels the best as it's felt in a really, really long time.
Yeah.
In a really long time.
Because
and I'm also avoiding cow's milk specifically from the dairy group, and I'm not eating in like nearly any wheat or gluten like at all.
Awesome.
And so those three things, the mixture of those three things, at first I thought I had the flu. And then once that all kind of went away, like I remember like on day 6 or 7, I was like, holy shit, like I feel really great. Like in a great that I hadn't experienced in a really long time. So it was, it was pretty awesome.
Good. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right on. What's new with you guys? How old's Theo now? Is he 2 yet?
No, Theo is 2.
Hold on.
Yeah. What else is going on? I'm always gluten-free, dairy-free, so.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, coffee is not something that I'm willing to part with. But I know that you guys took that test, and so it gave you.
Well, and then mine specifically came back sensitive to coffee, and so I just said, well, all right, let's just do no caffeine also, because, well, I guess the funny thing too is I'm not 100% certain where the flu symptoms are coming from. Because there was like after 2 weeks of no gluten, I did have a patty melt that had some very, very tasty marbled rye. And then I had a beer the next night, and then the flu symptoms came back. So I think it's wheat, but I also had some cheese in there too. So I think it's the wheat or the gluten that's really giving me those flu symptoms, or I don't know, with the withdrawals from coming back off of it. So that's really fascinating. Yeah. It's nice to know. It's nice to have that paper that says, hey, this is where your body is stressed, and this is exactly what's stressing you, and this is to the level at which it's stressed, is something interesting learning thing for me as well. Like, okay, I'm not going to do these things unless I have like a documentation from a test that I've willingly taken that says, okay, here's the stuff that you should probably take a break from. And so
lean into that. Talk about why it would take that test when you knew this. You mentioned it a year and a half ago.
Right. Yeah, we talked about this a year and a half ago. So it's just a really fascinating thing about the documentation. I don't know, like literally every single thing McCare's like, hey, I think you should take this test. I'm always like a little about. And then whenever I do the seminar or take the test or whatever it is, the results come back, and it's always something that's super beneficial for me. But it's just something about having like the stuff in front of me and being like, oh shit.
Can't deny it.
Because and then you're not able to not deny it anymore. And I read the Malcolm Gladwell book, Talking to Strangers, a few weeks ago. And he talks about how we always default to truth. And, you know, like I feel fine.
Yeah.
And so we just default to that so much. And then now that I've had the experience, it's like, oh crap. Because I've done like Whole30 and
Right.
felt way better.
Yeah.
Yet when I did Whole30 the last time, it was because McCare was she had gestational diabetes.
Okay.
And so then I was like, oh, well, to help you, but now that the baby's out, like I don't have gestational diabetes, so let's
Right.
just go do this. And I remember seeing an acupuncturist a few years back, and she was like, oh, well, here's your blood type stuff. You shouldn't eat any of these things, which is a general list. It's just like, hey, everybody with O negative blood should do that. It wasn't very specific to me. So
Yeah.
having my name on it, I don't know. It's interesting.
Was there anything on that list that you can remember now you have been cutting out and that it was on that list?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
All of it. The one thing that was on my list that was surprising was pistachios. And so the list of foods that say don't eat, my list was very short. It
Yeah.
says coffee, cow's milk, specifically cow's milk, not dairy, because it
Yeah.
breaks everything up to specifically all the stuff. It says specifically cow's milk. It says specifically I totally forgot to record this. I'm gonna start this right now. Okay, now we're recording. It said specifically cow's milk, specifically coffee. I'm
Yeah.
like totally derailed myself. High fructose corn syrup as far as sweeteners. So it didn't say anything about cane sugar, it didn't say anything about honey, and then it said pistachios. So it was
Yeah.
really
That's
just
sad.
those four things.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too, because going up to take the test, we'd had like those Costco bags of the organic and already shelled pistachios that I just been like rah, 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 you know. So it's been really yeah, I'm just eating
It,
cashews and almonds instead. Like it's not a huge deal.
yeah. Yeah. I found, the blood type diet supposedly is not founded on any science. And so I hesitate
Right.
to recommend it to anyone. But I tell people that they should read it with a big grain of salt and
Mm-hmm.
whatever actually, soaks in easily. Let that soak in. Because for myself, I now avoid gluten, dairy, oranges, and the stabilizer citric acid. And
Hmm.
citric acid was not in there that I can think of because I don't think they got into stabilizers and additives. But the rest are on that list. And I remember reading that I shouldn't eat oranges. Like, yeah, right. Like any
Yeah.
like natural whole food, like I'm not buying into that. But 10 years later, after reading that book, I
Mm-hmm.
found oranges were creating like blister-like rashes around my mouth, and it took me a while of consistently having this rash before I was willing to consider that it really was these
Yeah. What else was on the list that I thought was insane? Oh, the citrus is on mine because I'm at O negative.
Mhm.
And then the garlic, onions, tomatoes, like
Oh no.
anything really like acidic was on the list, but none of that came back. No fruits and vegetables at all were on my list at all. My list was actually super short. That part I wasn't surprised about. Like I had a pretty good feeling that I didn't have any sensitivity to a lot of stuff. Yet like the system stress, I guess I was that was surprising to me.
Oh, I can't remember. Are you guys supposed to eat more meat or less meat?
For O,
Yeah.
oh, O's like eat all the meat and all the green
So I
leafy stuff you
wonder,
can.
with the acidic stuff, I wonder if it's because you naturally have a very acid stomach acid, whereas my
Hmm.
type coffee is recommended.
Oh,
All
really?
acidic things are recommended, and
Hmm.
because type A's have just a weaker stomach acid generally.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't like. I went home and I think I did it for like a couple weeks, but then I was just like you. It's like, oh, how can onions? I think onions and garlic was just like a hard no. It was like that's the first thing I put in the pan when I cook anything. You
Totally.
know, some olive oil, onions, garlic, reduce it. What are we making? I don't remember. Just put it in the pan. And
Right.
so it was just, yeah. And so that was like a thing, but I don't know. But I've been avoiding this stuff like pretty well. I'd say a good 95% avoidance for most of this stuff. And I have had zero coffee since. We had a friend over for breakfast this morning, and she, yeah, her and McCare they made coffee, and I was like, I don't even want it anymore.
Perfect.
Yeah, I don't even want it. And it's just like this thing, like when I really like sit with it, my body's like, nope, that's not what you want. It's really not. So
Good.
yeah.
Good. Yeah, I think also with like garlic and onion, those things that you're not ready to let go of. My personal opinion from what I've seen is that if you like, it's really more about the more dramatic, uh, what's the word? More incriminating foods. It's more about the dairy and the gluten, or if coffee is causing issues. Once you handle the bigger things, oftentimes the smaller things that have a lot of other benefits to your body are not going to be the main issue that causes that extra inflammation. It's those.
Yeah.
So just keep listening to your body, and you'll know.
Mm-hmm.
You'll know.
Yeah. And we're going to take the test again in a few weeks, like once we go through the process of the detox
Perfect.
and see what it says and see, because that's definitely what they said. They said, hey, you may be sensitive to this now, but it might not be sensitive again in a month or 6 weeks or 2 months
Right.
when you guys retest.
Yeah.
Yet at the same time, I don't know. It, I don't know, especially the gluten, like really eating that sandwich. And then I had lasagna at Olive Tree as a special that same day. And then for like 3 or 4 days after that, I thought I had the flu again. It was crazy. Like it was like this feeling in my head, this pressure, and like all the way down through my throat. People are like, maybe you just had a cold. I was like, it was exactly the same, like the 2 days apart, like the 2 weeks apart. And although I don't know 100% if that was it, it was pretty, you know, so it was just interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good work.
Yeah. Good work indeed. What else you want to get into today? What's going on? What are you feeling passionate about these days?
Generally, I'm feeling so much passion, but today at this moment, I'm like, I don't know. My eyes are open. What have I been into? I've been listening to Gabby Bernstein's new book, Super Attractor, and Mel Robbins' new book, Take Control of Your Life. Those are both amazing. Been working on getting my new ebook out on an ad and figuring out the landing page logistics on that, and yeah, just making myself available to the world.
Nice, 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 nice. Who, you have a WordPress site?
No, it's Squarespace.
Squarespace. I had a really easy time getting my PDFs out when I was using Kajabi. It was so
Yeah,
easy.
yeah,
Kajabi's so easy, but it's more expensive. So what can you do?
right. Yeah, I just saw someone's Kajabi landing page, I think, and it made a lot of sense, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot more expensive. So I just got a recommendation,
Yeah.
better landing page than the one I'm currently using that's on my Squarespace. There was
Oh,
not
cool.
options, and so it was less appealing to the reader. But yeah, I got a recommendation, and I'm going to dig into that this week and hopefully
Right on.
more appealing out.
What's your ebook about?
My ebook is called 11 Steps to Love Your Body More. So last time I was on, I think I was really going through a huge transition, maybe about a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I don't know. I've got my educations and stuff, but I don't know what kind of coach I am. And so since then, I have really niched into just body positivity, love your body. And from there, like my background is in holistic nutrition and teaching yoga. And so I've made a course that is very well rounded. And so my ebook is really to give people a taste of that, to let them have, get people interested in what it is I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right on. Do you want to take us through the steps?
through the steps. Sure.
Yeah, I'd love that. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, so the book is based on the modules in my course, and so we start out with learning meditation techniques, and I like to keep meditation really simple. So the way I had learned meditation was the same way I think a lot of people think about meditation, that you're supposed to push all thoughts out. And that never worked for me. And so it never appealed to me. And I just thought I was more of a movement meditation person.
Mm-hmm.
But then I learned, I think probably through Tony Robbins' work and then later Gabby Bernstein, what really resonated with me was bringing in a mantra or bringing in a feeling that you're really nourishing yourself with this emotion, this positive emotion, joy, thankfulness, or even a mantra of I am successful, I am powerful. I am statements are incredibly powerful. We'll get into that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I get into meditations and kind of how to simplify it and how to experiment with what actually feels good to the person going through the course. And then there's also journaling entries throughout. There's a lot of journaling prompts. And so the first journaling prompt I offer, not in my book, but in my course, is one that will help people really reconnect with their history with food in general. Because our history with our bodies is very linked to our history with food. Like, we are made up of our stories. So if you can go back and reclaim those stories, retell those stories, then you're going to have a lot of power over yourself moving forward. Second module, we get into how to create goals and how to connect with them emotionally, so that, so many people have this goal of, well, yeah, I want to be thin. And I've always said, like, being thin is not a goal. That's just, if you say I want to be thin, you are working towards nothing. Like, that is a vapor. And so really you write down, I want to be thin, and I teach you a certain way that you can dig into that and figure out what it is that you really want. Because nobody really wants to be thin for thin's sake. What you want is to be healthy and vibrant and be able to keep up with your kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, or chase that dream job that you've always wanted, or create that dream job, as we are doing. Yeah, like if I, like, sure, it'd be amazing to look like a supermodel all the time, but mostly what keeps me making healthy choices is that I want to wake up tomorrow and feel decent enough to build my new landing page that's going to be more effective than what I currently have.
Right.
Yeah. Number 3 is your affirmations, or no, yeah, we get into self-talk, listening to your self-talk, writing down your self-talk, like making sure that you are paying attention. So I say, like, throughout a couple days, you should just take the time to stop and write down anything negative that you say to yourself. And then the next module, we get into how to make those negative statements, those things you've been saying to yourself for 40 years, how to turn it into something that is in the opposite going forward, something that actually creates a new pathway in your brain, a new healthy pathway that takes you forward in life rather than continuing spiraling down, right? So how to create affirmations is huge. And I was talking about, like, those statements that I use, because I've always, part of my insecurities has always been, like, who am I to say these things? Who am I to teach these things? So words that I like to affirm myself with is I am powerful, I am important, I have a lot to teach the world, I am successful, just things like that. Reminding myself that it's okay for me to be this in a state of flow, allowing information to come out of me, even if it's not super well thought out before it comes out of me. Oftentimes, really brilliant things come out when I have not thought about what I should say.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
man, this is a quote that I heard recently is, if you just say what's on your mind, you never think about what you have to say.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And this been
honest.
just like, yeah. So what are you thinking? Just say it. I think that's very, very, yeah.
Yeah.
We muddle it when we get into the weeds about it.
Right. Yeah. So just think about, aside from the body positivity, like, if you were to just be feeding yourself words that brought out more and more truth, that'd be huge. That'd be life-changing in and of itself. So yeah, but my course is geared towards body positivity, relationship with body, So that is the, I think, fourth module. Module 5, we get into beliefs. So this is even different than the negative self-talk. Like the self-talk and the affirmations, that's having to do with a symptom, but really that you can follow it up to your belief systems and figure out, like the easiest way I like to describe this is when two people start a family together, like you just think about Christmas traditions. Like think about you and McCare coming from different families and having different ideas of what should happen for Christmas, when the tree should go up, what kind of tree you should have, what color the direct decorations are supposed to be. When you open stockings, when you open presents, who comes over and when do they come over, all of that, people have these beliefs about what is normal. And then oftentimes for many people, you don't really see someone else as normal until you are starting a family of your own and your partner's like, WTF, that's not how it goes. So any thoughts on that?
No, I think it's the first thought is that Christmas, the holiday celebration period, is from Black Friday till January 1st. Number one, that's the rule. And so, and I know that there's a lot of people that are like, no, it's fall, we're celebrating Christmas. So but that's just me. And so like, I think that's the one thing that comes up, you know, and then I know that like, as soon as it turns October, they're gonna like start turning on all the pumpkin spice everything, which is something that it's like, yeah, I'm like, what? No, let's don't do that. It's awful. Like, let's stop. And so, yeah, no, I think it's a really great example. But one of the things that we're doing to like remedy that is like merge and develop our own, like make our own things as a family, which is really cool. Which is probably what you suggest, you know?
Yeah. And Charlie, you guys might feel that you're both moving very forward, but Charlie and Pippin will find that to be normal. And so they enter a partnership, will find that it's not normal to everyone.
Yeah, for sure. Oh man, one of the things we do now, we get brand new, we open one present on Christmas Eve, and we have matching family pajamas that we get for Christmas. And one of us picks them out and puts them all together. And then we all open, and then we all wear those, and then we wake up in the same pajamas the next day, and then do Christmas morning. So that's like, that's something that we do now, which neither of us did in our other families. Yeah. Which feels really good because now it's our tradition. So, totally. You know,
that's a really fun one to grow up with. Cool. Yeah. So just like that, you can rewrite your belief systems and really check what's outdated. Just like, you know, for you guys, some other traditions you decided to do away with in order to just have this one thing, this one gift that you all open that is your new tradition. So you can go into your belief patterns in the same exact way and realize, I'm trying to think of an example, especially around food. Okay, so like take dairy, for example. I was passionate about my love and devotion for dairy. I was a quesadilla girl, a grilled cheese girl, a girl, all of it, all the time. And then I found out that I was reacting to it, had an openness to experiment, and the experiments were crystal clear. And so it was very clear that off of dairy, I noticed a lot of improvement in my health, which was really shitty at the time. My health was terrible at the time. And so off of dairy, I was doing much better. Back on dairy, every time my symptoms would get worse. Because I was more clean, I would have a more clear reaction. And so I knew I had to do away with it. And I knew, I was 19, this was 2003 or 4. The internet existed, but it was not what it is now. There were no Facebook groups for people going off of dairy or anything. My family thought it was a stupid idea. Nobody was with me in this. It was all of my own volition, my own inspired plan of action, I guess is the best way to call it. I wouldn't even call it willpower. I just knew I needed to do it. And so I created a plan for myself to go off of dairy. And in order to carry out this plan, people would ask me how I did it. And at the age of 19, having as far as I can remember, not really read any self-help books. I would just tell people I changed my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's
Mm-hmm.
mind-blowing that I knew that all you had to do is change your mind. All I did was change my
Mm-hmm.
belief system about dairy being good for me or normal. I decided it was no longer normal for me because my body was rejecting it, and that's not how I wanted to live my life. So you can do that with anything. Anything
Anything.
you have to change your mind, and that does take practice. It does take a devotion to your own intuition and thought process, and a devotion to your health and who you want to be in this world. But that's why the whole course is very full spectrum. So after we change belief systems, then we get into the Tony Robbins 6 human needs. And for anyone that has not heard of that, the human needs that we all meet at various levels every single day of our lives are love and connection, certainty, uncertainty / variety, significance, growth, and contribution. So basically, what you do with these is you can look at your life and think about anything that you do in your life. For example, we'll take this conversation for example. What needs am I meeting by showing up for this conversation right here, right now? Generally, in being a coach, I am meeting my needs for significance, connection, variety. I wouldn't say certainty yet.
It's certainty to me because I do this every week.
That's
but
true.
It's also variety because I have somebody new every week.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. No, this checks all 6 of them for me because this is a growth thing because I get to learn from you and then we get to, what I believe, have a real conversation and then we're contributing to the thing. So yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah. So Tony Robbins says when you meet 4 or maybe it's even 3 of these things by any one action or choice, you are setting yourself up for addiction to that action or choice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So then you think about it for something that maybe is not so positive as this conversation. You think about it as
cheese.
Getting into
or
body
quesadillas. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When I decided to stop eating cheese, that was really hard in 2003 or 4 because people are so united and bonded by sharing similar things at the table. And I didn't have any support system. I was really unprepared and I was an emotionally volatile person at the time. And so there were so many times I would sit down at a restaurant, order my food without cheese on it, and it would come out without cheese. And the whole table would look at me like, are you really going to send that back? But that's my own story. Anyway, my point was more like, for people who deep down maybe don't want to eat cheese or want to try a new diet, but they go sit down with people and there's so much peer pressure to not do something different than you've always done.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was bound and determined not to cave. Like I showed up for myself, hard as it was, and cried so many tears because of it. But most of the world is out there thinking, yeah, I would love to try keto, or I would love to try the Whole30, but how would I ever go out with my friends? Because most people sit down and they say some shitty things about their thighs and say, oh, I really shouldn't eat this, or this is going to go straight to my hips, or man, there goes all my goals for this week. I did so well, but now like, fuck it, and that language is part of being in a tribe. When everyone around you is saying things like that, it's really hard to escape it. You are even addicted to it. It's meeting your needs for love and connection. When you all can sit around and talk about how this food is going to your thighs or your hips or how it totally fucked up your diet. That's love and connection. That's significance, that's certainty. And based on where you're eating or who you're with, it's also variety. That's an addiction.
And you described my event with the patty melt exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. We went to a place that I'd never eaten lunch at before, and I was like, oh yeah, this is it's the Kaimaki Superette. And they got a very, very eclectic menu. They've got very healthy stuff there. But then I saw that patty melt and I was like, oh. And then it's just started ticking those boxes. Yeah. And then, yeah, sure enough, I felt like I was going to die the next day. So it was really, really fascinating. No, that's good. That's good stuff. I wrote them down. I put them in the comments too for anybody who's listening. You should check those out. That's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've heard that before, but you described it a really cool way. I love how you described it both ways.
Yeah. So that's with the 6 human needs, and you can use those for basically anything.
Anything.
So you dig into beliefs, you dig into your patterns, anything that you feel you're struggling with, you can start looking into every corner of your life and saying, what needs am I meeting by doing this? If it's hard for me to get sugar, what needs am I meeting by eating sugar? What needs am I meeting by being depressed regularly? What needs am I meeting by having anxiety? I do believe that there are a few different levels of depression and anxiety.
Right.
There's real medical grade, like you are clinically depressed, and that's not what I'm going to talk about moving forward.
Right.
If someone has that's not what I'm saying. But if you suffer from being stagnant at a low point for prolonged periods of time, and then you reach a short level high, and then you go back to being low, that is really normal in the human condition. And it's completely treatable with mindset work. Really identifying what human needs you're meeting by being in your low point. You get a lot of love and connection by reaching out to people who care about you. You get a lot of significance by people putting you first when you're feeling really bad about yourself. You get a lot of uncertainty. Maybe you're in an abusive relationship and you never know how your partner is going to react when you reach that low point again. What you're looking for is a love and connection, but you might get a fight instead. And that is uncertainty, variety. And then what is the other one? Maybe certainty that you know that people
contribution. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So contribution and growth and contribution are both a little different because they are soul level needs. So
right.
First 4 ones are more the ego based, the personality based. The other ones are soul level needs. So you're probably not going to be meeting them in your lower level issues, but definitely I look at myself when I suffered more from anxiety, and it was like I would build myself up by calling my 5 or 6 best friends and telling the same story again and again about some guy I dated and what he said and what it all means. And then I'm so worried about it for a week. And, this schmuck probably doesn't care at all. So I'm all worked up on purpose, meeting these needs, talking to my friends, getting love and connection, getting significance, maybe crying about it and just feeling so low about it. And I'm meeting all these needs. I'm addicted to this behavior. And so I had to start realizing I could be using this time for something else. I could be meeting my needs at a higher level. And so for me, meeting my needs at a higher level is investing in my career that I'm still working on building, and investing in my family, and deciding that I'm going to go practice yoga when I have the block of time to do it, rather than lay around and gossip, hop on a call with a friend and just talk about whatever that's not really going to do anything good for the world.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the 6 human needs. They are super important. And
that was amazing.
Yeah. After the 6 human needs, we get into stress cycles. So Tony Robbins describes this stress cycle as a figure 8. And again, I'm not talking about clinical depression or clinical anxiety, but just the run-of-the-mill low points and angst that we have as the human condition. We naturally go in this figure 8 where things are going really, 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 really good. And then they start to slide. Oh my gosh, I'm low. Things are looking up. I'm doing well. Oh shit. We go like this constantly. So the idea is to not make it so extreme, right? You want it to be more flat. How can you make it more flat? How can you recognize where you're meeting these human needs at low levels? Because as you start to decide to meet them at higher levels, you are going to flatten out your stress cycle.
Mm-hmm.
That, and then also with self-care practices. So after we learn about the stress cycles and help you identify your stress cycles, and you do some journaling work through it, then we get into what is self-care, inner self-care, and what is self-care for your physical self. And yeah, so that's basically my whole program.
Nice.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, I'm really proud of it.
No, I think it's awesome. It's cool. I think that was, no, I love the, I have an exercise, I don't have an exercise, but a way that I describe it, but the figure eight you described, I described the figure eight as like our life has like a point A to point B.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, we have some sort of, something's programmed in here for us to experience, right? That's my belief. It's like the free will versus the fatalistic point of view, but like kind of mixed together. But I just have the pendulum swinging like over that line. And if you were to draw the path of the pendulum, it would make a figure eight as it's moving forward on that thing. So yeah, I love that. That was pretty dialed in that. So right on. Yeah, cool. Let us know where we can find that, and I'll be sure to add this to the link so people can find that.
Perfect.
And whomever maybe,
I'll link, or I'll post it myself after this.
Okay, cool.
Book, and then from there you can just learn more about what I do.
Right on.
Yeah, so I'm happy. I decided to put out the ebook to help like give people a taste of what is in my program, and I feel like the ebook is such a great start. Also, like I wasn't trying to like, I was not trying to hold value back. I was really trying to give a really great start.
Right, which I think is the right call.
Yeah.
For any business person or someone who wants to give service to the world. I think it's the right call on both sides. Exactly. It is. It really is. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I've been up to lately. Just really is taking a step forward every day. And you know what it's like with kids. Like you can't always just carve out an 8-hour day. So
I get 2 hours today. That's what I got today.
2 hours?
And an hour is this, and the 30 minutes is another call with somebody else. So it just is what it is. You know? Yeah, it's what it is. But we're making it work. You know, it's working out. Like it's working out. It's possible. It's possible to get everything you need to get done in those 2 hours. So, yeah, it's just possible. So, right on.
So, what are some ways that you meet your needs in the highest levels?
In the highest levels. So, one of the things that's super important to me is to know the things that are most important to me. Like having a connected and supported family, that's my number one highest value. And my second highest value is to have an evolving and thriving business, the first Wakeups. Like, and that's so that it's constantly like I'm really paying attention to when something's like, you know, loose, to either tighten that or something blatantly doesn't work and remove it and toss it and put something new in that place. And then the third thing, and this is a recent upgrade to those priorities, is like, okay, I am now experiencing what healthy feels like again. And I'm exercising 5 days a week, and I'm eating much, much better this last month. And so like, you know, I put optimal physical health on that. And there's a little bit of insecurity around that word because I used to coach CrossFit and I used to have a 6-pack. So that like that word optimal physical health has a lot of story, just like you were saying, around being able to snatch 215 pounds. And so I have no desire to do that because I don't want to spend 20 hours in the gym anymore. I want to push the 70-pound 2-baby stroller up and down the hill. That's what I want my exercise to be. It feels like a CrossFit workout after I'm done. It may or may not be as good, but it is what I'm going to do, and it's what I really value because I get to check a lot of those. But as I'm looking at this list right now, I get to check a lot of those blocks because I get to give my wife space to work. I get to have time outside exercising, and I'm with my girls. We stop at the park, we play for a little bit, and then we get back in the stroller, and sometimes we visit my son at Lanikai Juice, and then we push that heavy ass thing back up the hill. And so I get to check a lot of those blocks.
Perfect.
And then I have my game group on the weekends that I'm super passionate about as well. And yeah, just and that's an evolution as well. And just allowing those things to evolve, allowing those priorities to evolve, and really, really like doing this, like just coming on here and connecting with you. Like this is, I love this so much because I learned shit today, learned shit that I like, oh, I totally knew that. But the way you described it, I was like, oh, that landed on me a specific way today. So, and again, it's about that evolution again for me.
There's
and so
look at something.
to look at it from like a timeline perspective, like how I got to this point, I moved a lot, as you know, growing up.
Yeah.
And then I was in the Navy for 20 years, all over the place all the time. And so to me, in a way, this is like a continuation of that constant movement, yet in a grounded and more holistic and effective and beneficial way, instead of just being like, where are we going? I don't know. Let's just go do something. And so now it's like built within a framework that's malleable and, you know, useful to me achieving and getting the things that I want in my life as effectively as possible.
Yeah.
So
Variety.
yeah, the variety and certainty. Perfect. Yeah. You know what? I love this. Love it. I love learning new ways to describe the stuff that I already described. So that if somebody's like, I don't really get it. Okay, let me tell you about Tony Robbins and this thing. So that's like really, really kick-ass. And I think that's something too that I notice with us as coaches is that a lot of us, if I laid out my 11 steps program right next to yours, it would be very similar. This is a lot of it. The wording is just differently, and it's something that resonates more than us. Like, and of all those steps, the 6 human needs step was the one that's like, that's the one that resonates the most. Whereas some people writing down their self-talk may resonate the most, you know?
Honestly, I think that the human needs is one of the most important things in my course. Like, I think all of it goes together holistically so well, but the human needs really pulls together understanding of stress and what was the other thing? Just addiction, right? Our addiction. Why do we do what we do? Because we're getting something from it. We're always getting something. And most of us are not going on our daily life thinking about what we're getting in these human needs from why every time you go out to the shopping center, you feel like you have to get a Starbucks, right? It's because you're meeting needs with that addiction. That habit is something that you literally, if you uncover what's behind it, you don't stand a chance unless you rewrite the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was an interesting thing when, like, my coffee thing over the last year. I'd say in the last year, I've gone from paying $5 or more. We live in Hawaii. A day on a latte, then shifting to the ceremony of using my French press in the kitchen to what the fuck am I supposed to do now?
Yeah.
And like really doing that. And so, but that like led me to a bunch of really, really cool things. And there's been a whole bunch of releasing for me and like letting go of certain stuff that I thought that I needed. And I'm finding myself with so much less bullshit to do with the 2 hours that I have available to me today. Because I'm not filling it with 10 minutes to make coffee in the French press, I can use that time for something else that fits within my top 4, that's meaningful and keeps me gassed up. And so it's just like finding more productive stuff to put in there and using those 6 things to your advantage instead of your disadvantage. This has been awesome. I love doing these so much because I learn so much every week. It's like, it's like free school. It's awesome. I love it. Yeah. Nice. Right on. What else you got? You got anything else?
What else do I have?
Yeah.
So we just got a nanny, and with that, as a relationship coach, you'll appreciate that we built in 4 hours every weekend for us to have a date. And so we've had 2 dates now, and unfortunately, our nanny did just get injured, and so she's gonna have to lay low for a little bit, but that's okay.
Right.
Myself more than give us a date. So we'll see what happens the next couple months. But
nice.
That's been amazing.
We have some people that we could recommend. We had during the fall break, we had 2 people come over for 4 hours at a shop. And even if McCara and I are just in the same room, like both working and not even talking to each other, it's just nice being in the same space where there's no noise.
Yeah.
You know, like it's super, I just have something about that, like, and that fits into that. If I'm thinking about, okay, that's the growth and like that growth, like I can feel the silence is like really, really here.
Yeah.
You know, like, so we've been doing dates on Friday night, like when Andrew's home, because he usually gets home and we just put the girls to sleep and we can get out of the house by 7:30. So we've been doing that and getting out. And you know.
What do you do on your dates? Do you?
We usually skip dinner and go get food and a couple of drinks.
Perfect.
It's a food thing for us. That's interesting now that I think about like why. Because we've been talking about going to movies as well, but by the time we get out, like the next show is like always at 9 something, so we would have to stay out till midnight, and we just ain't about that life.
Oh no, I couldn't.
It's way too no way. We're in bed. Like I have like a pretty hard thing for me. Like 10 p.m. Like I need to start I just moving up there.
Yep.
So it's really interesting. So
yeah. So for
ours is usually food and drinks.
Yeah.
Because there's no tiny hands digging into your plate or slapping your drink off the table. And so that's like, it's really interesting to see what else we could do. So just in the context of the human needs, which I appreciate because I love to bend my brain around these things.
Yeah. So what we did, I looked up a list of questions for a married couple. And so we're 2 dates and we still are only like maybe at question 18 or so.
Oh, wow.
That's been a really fun way to just talk about things that aren't our children.
That's a good idea because usually we'll intentionally not talk about the kids and we usually end up talking about business. That's usually what we talk about.
Yeah, it's a fun way to instead talking about inspirations and like, let me think about some questions. One of the questions was, when did you know that you were in love with me? And his answer surprised me and my answer surprised him. And so that was fun that we both didn't really, we knew generally, but we didn't know.
Yeah, Karen and I've had that specific question we both know the answers to, but I'm sure send me a link to those questions. I'd love to dig into those.
Yeah, it's a fun one. And so it just gives more, not that we wouldn't find something to talk about, but I think it makes conversation more fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Okay. Perfect.
Cool. I appreciate you so much. This was fun. We'll definitely have you back. And if you want to know more about Natalie, you can find her at nataliefun.com. And if you're interested in more just check her out. And if you have questions, you can find her pretty easily. I've got her Facebook page and her website linked here, and I'll add your business page. I don't know if you got much stuff on there as well. So yeah,
personal page, the group, and then I'll post a link to my ebook.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Right on, Natalie. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. Have a good day.
Yeah, of course. Bye.